Donald Trump, he's erratic. Do you believe this behavior is calculated strategy, or does it stem from lack of understanding? Is he just stupid? Do you think that people advising him are also stupid, or are they strategic? What is he trying to achieve? Okay, again, this goes back to our understanding of how the world works. You have the eschatology, then you have the secret societies, then you have the agents, okay? And Trump is an agent. Now, what makes him a very powerful agent is his unpredictability. Today he's like, I'm gonna nuke Iran. Tomorrow he's like, let's have peace in the world, guys, okay? He's just unpredictable. It's all a show, okay? And there are 3 reasons why unpredictability is so powerful. The first reason is that it's paralyzing. Paralyzing just means like, you don't know how to respond to him. Like, what do you do? How do you fight a guy who changes his opinion every single day? Okay? It paralyzes you into inaction. Second is distracting. All your attention is focused on his antics, and you don't realize that behind the scenes, things are happening. Okay? There are people who are implementing certain things, but you don't really notice the backstage because you're just focused on Trump being a clown on stage. Okay? And the last advantage is flexibility, which is to say that he is not beholden to any strategy. And he can change his strategy at any time. Okay? So, yes, we think he's a clown, and he is a clown, but there's a method to his madness. Okay? So it paralyzes enemies, it distracts his enemies, and he's able to maintain maximum flexibility in his actions. Okay? And that's why he's so successful. All right. The people around him just do whatever he tells him to. People around just tells him exactly what he wants to hear. Okay? It's actually Donald Trump that's making all the decisions, and his ultimate purpose is to get his 3rd term. All right? Because from his perspective, if he actually wants to implement his vision for America, he needs the 3rd term. Okay? And again, his vision is a technate, where America becomes a fortress, abandons the world, and just trades with the world. Okay, we discussed this previously. But for him to achieve that, he needs his 3rd term. And so he needs to figure out how to get his 3rd term. And this war in Iran is about strategy, because if this war continues and it goes badly for America, then Trump can declare martial law and have a lot of powers. Okay? And again, his enemies are too distracted to appreciate that this is strategic, and they're paralyzed into inaction. The Democratic Party, which should be opposing Trump and this war, are just sitting back and doing nothing, hoping that in the midterms, Trump's party, the Republicans, get wiped out, and they go into power, and then the world is perfect again. Okay? So the Democrats actually don't have a strategy for this. All right. The GCC, the petrodollar collapses, okay? Let's pretend the petrodollar collapses. AI collapses, treasury bond collapses. Will the U.S. not suffer an economic and development catastrophe, which is not part of the U.S. plans? Yeah, this is a good question, but you have to understand, again, a nation state is a collection of different interests, and these interests are competing against each other. Okay, so you have different interest groups. You have AI, you have finance, you have resources. Okay, and so what matters is the general direction of the country. So if the economy were to collapse, the main losers would be finance and AI, okay? But then what America can do, because it's so wealthy and its people are so energetic, is, well, let's just focus on building resources, okay? Oil, food, water, fertilizer. Let's just make this stuff and sell it to the world. Then the economy rebounds, okay? So this is actually a restructuring. Okay? Something we talked about before, where the purpose is not to destroy America, the purpose is to move power away from one elite to another elite, okay? This is basically a revolution in America. AI can actually be saved, okay? with government bailout. And that's what I imagine will happen, okay? AI and finance, the bubbles will burst, finance will be allowed to collapse, AI will be bailed out because Trump is very close with these AI overlords like Peter Thiel and Sam Altman. And then resources and manufacturing, okay, will become the dominant center of gravity in the American economy. Okay, so that's a plan. I'm not saying this will happen exactly like this, but that's what they intend to happen. All right. Transnational capital is a game master. Transnational capital will then take its money elsewhere if the empire collapses. So transnational capital doesn't lose any power. And they can just bet on different horses, Japan, Israel, Germany. Okay, yeah, so in my analysis, I use abstract terms that are not accurate, but are useful for simplicity and clarity, okay? So you're right in that transnational capital also have competing interests. And just because the empire collapses doesn't mean that all the money goes to Israel. This money will spread out. And that's true, okay? But the point I'm trying to make is that, first of all, most of the money will go to Israel. Why? Because Israel provides the best short-term investment opportunities if you're a trillionaire, okay? But you're right in that other money will go to other places as well. But again, the best opportunity is Israel, so you will see the most growth in Israel. And that's why over time, more capital will shift towards Israel. That's how capital works, okay? Yes, capital will allocate its resources, capital will put its eggs in different baskets, but ultimately you have to ask yourself, where is the best investment opportunity? And in the short term, not in the long term, but in the short term, it's going to be the Middle East, okay? All right. How do we combat the war against truth? How do we engage in discussion that transnational biases? Okay, we all live in fantasies. How do we overcome this? What techniques do you employ in your research? All right, okay. So things that I do that I think are very important is, first of all, doubt. You always want to question yourself. You always want to ask yourself, am I correct? That's why making predictions is important. Because making predictions, it's actually about creating doubt in yourself. Because if the predictions are wrong, it's a mechanism for you to self-reflect and appreciate the limitations of your model, okay? So that's one strategy. Another strategy is debate. Okay? Where you engage in people who think differently than you do. And I do that by watching a lot of YouTube videos, and I try to watch people of different political leanings, who have different viewpoints than I, because I'm interested in hearing their perspective, okay? So keep an open mind, engage in people who disagree with you, and have an honest debate with them as well as yourself. Now, the last piece, and this is actually something that I do, but most people don't do, is I use my imagination. And all this means is I will go places, I will make certain assumptions that other people don't do, okay? That's why I think people find me so interesting, because I will say things that are imaginative, that are speculative, but which is not backed up by any evidence. Don't be afraid to do that, okay? If you want to seek the truth, you have to make some imaginative leaps into the unknown in order to find the truth, okay? The truth is not in front of you. The truth is often behind you or far away from you, okay? So you don't be afraid to just leap far, okay? Into the unknown. All right. All right, let's continue. Okay. So Asia and Australia are suffering the most from this global conflict. Why are these nations passive? Won't these nations intervene? Okay, again, a lot of this is misconception in that everyone thinks that the nation states are the constituent players in this game, and the nation states are all equal. They're not equal. They're not. Nation states, so there are only certain nation states that have the capacity to project force overseas. Russia, America, maybe some European countries. Australia, Asia, and most European countries are just vassal states. They are not capable of playing this game. They're only capable of obeying. Okay? Maybe over time, they'll change the attitude and develop the capacity to play this game. But you have to remember that, like the GCC, a lot of these European countries, Japan, South Korea, Malaysia, Indonesia, Philippines, they're all co-opted by the CIA. Okay? These are all American vassal states. And so they're not capable of acting independently of American policy. There's the illusion that they are independent, but they're not. Okay? And you can tell because of their actions. In that, you're absolutely right in that, okay, if you're Australia and you don't have any more jet fuel, well, then you should send your army or negotiate with Americans or negotiate with Iranians. But they're not doing that, okay? Japan is, in fact, negotiating with Iran, but Japan is still a vassal state of America. Pakistan is the mediator for this ceasefire talk between America and Iran, but guess what? Pakistan is also just another vassal state, okay? They pretend not to be, but just by their actions, you know that they are, in fact, vassal states.